What the Heck's your source for Warhammer Underworlds in under 30 glory scored in the first round. My name is Davey. I'm your co-host, and with me I have three of our regular co-hosts. Skylar, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Brian, how are you?
What's up? Doing good.
And Josh, what's the haps?
Doing well.
Good to hear. For context, according to my notes, we're recording this on January the 22nd.
22nd.
The 22nd is the
22nd of the we know that Acon is closing in on us, so that's where we're at. We don't have any news about new warbands or any new releases in between. Still eagerly anticipating some FAR and errata, TBD. But our topic for today is our championship event. Just happened. It was the Madtown Throwdown Q1. Happened yesterday. We're going to be talking about that. But before we get into it, we're going to do our usual. And I'm going to snatch the mic since I already have it and get the first community shout out. And this one is, gosh, I don't want to be too forward, but it's a love letter to WathLab. Over on Reddit, he has posted his fourth puzzle. I was not aware of the first three, but this is in the style of those like chess puzzles. Like, can you get checkmate in, the next move or whatever? He posted, of course, as you can imagine, it's chosen axes oriented, but it sets up a scenario here. And in this one, it is playing against the Exiled Dead. It says the Exiled Dead have just taken this move. So this guy's got to move. This guy's got to charge. Here's what your hand is. And it gives you a couple assumptions, like presume that they don't have, a push or whatever the case may be. But it sets up this construction is like, how are you going to kill Markov, or and then like, what if you had this car? How would you kill Daintalos? And I love it. It's an idea that I've been thinking of trying to do for us and have not gotten off the ground. And so I also hate it because he snatched it before I could make it public. But let's get real. And any action on my part was probably a little ways out. Reddit, I am too old to like get Reddit, so I have a super hard time finding posts on there. I will do my best to link to this. I wish it was on a platform that I was a little bit more comfortable with, but I love the idea of this, and I hope there's many more of those. So
I cannot wait to check this out. That
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
It was so cool. He actually posted one, and I answered. I was like the first answer, I think. I was like, oh, I got it. This actually wasn't too hard. And then he was like, oh, no, I had an error. I deleted it. Go check the other one. I went to the other one. I'm like, oh, this is way harder. Like, I don't, I'm not so sure about this one. So, yeah, it's a really cool puzzle. And my only recommendation is if you're scroll down slowly so you don't accidentally zoom down to somebody who might have posted the answer. Let yourself work through it. It's great. It's super. I'm not surprised. It sounds like it's right up your alley, Skylar. What
Davey
else?
needs an anthropomorphic paperclip to help him through Reddit.
Oh God, yeah.
I will give a shout out to on our Underworlds general Discord. Tris, they also had a championship event same day in Vienna. I'm guessing Austria. He doesn't specify, but they had a championship tournament at Siren Games in Vienna. He says that there was 10 players, 3 rounds, best of 3. Gnarl Spirit Pack took the first place, followed by Exile Dead and Rippas. He was running Grimwatch, he says, and took the wooden spoon. So I feel you on that one. But good to see worldwide championship events going on.
In our defense, with Vienna being in Austria or not, pick any international city, and that international city probably has a U.S. city by the same name. Like we've got a London and a whatever. Like,
well, there was a big time difference on that one, which I think correlates to Europe. So
yeah, we've sleuthed it. We figured it out. Can't get anything by us. Who else has got something?
I got something. Less a community shout out and more a call to action from our current community. If you are interested in helping us out to form what is being dubbed the Trash Fire Tournament. We are looking forward to your suggestions. I believe it came first from Sleek's Bowl to just do a wild and crazy recommendation-based tournament, and we all love the idea. So when you're hearing this, go ahead and give a look out at the Mortal Realms Discord. We'll be posting a thread for nominations there. We want to hear from you. Give us a warband, some card selections. Try not to build the entire deck. It will be championship format, so we're looking for some suggestions that we can work around. And if you have specific player callouts, if you really want to put the thumb screws to any one of the particular members of the What the Hex podcast, then let us know.
Yeah, and I just want to remind the listeners that Skylar promised he would never play Godsworn Hunt again. So if you want to make him a liar, that's cool with me.
Oh, hey, yeah, no, and please put all of those suggestions for Skylar to play Godsworn Hunt. He would love that.
Yeah.
I only ask that somebody insists Josh play Eyes of Nine.
Oh no, my favorite warband. Please don't nominate me for that.
But yeah, we'll be looking for what gets the most community engagement. If posts get a bunch of likes and comments and stickers and all that, then we'll be keeping an eye on those particularly.
Yeah, wow, look at you, Mr. Social Influencer. Be sure to smash those likes and them subscribe.
Comment, like, and subscribe, guys.
Wait, did we swear in the first 15 seconds? Are we good here?
Do we plug our Patreon?
What about my OnlyFans page?
Oh, no.
That's just for me.
Got wildly off the rails here. Yeah, we are still sorting out if it's going to be a little in-house tournament to celebrate the 100th episode, which is coming up in, gosh, this is 97, fellas. So just 3 more, or exactly one will land. Our hands may be a little bit tied depending on when new releases come out and Adepticon and all that sort of thing. So it'll be on or about then. But
yeah, still eagerly awaiting LVOs next weekend. Hopefully we'll see some games there.
Yeah. Tell me something good. All right. Our other regular segment is What the Hex is going on with you? Guys, I know what's been going on with you. You've been playing in a tournament with me. But anything else happening with you? I'm assuming not much, but if anyone's got it, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I don't think it'll be much spoilerific, but I did hobby retail therapy into Age of Sigmar. I bought some Slaves to Darkness, so I think I'll be probably listening more to some of the other podcasts here on the Mortal Realms Story Phase and the Path to Story campaign. Curious to see where that's going to be going, because we're going to be doing a couple of us are going to be doing the Path to Glory Gibbering Dome at Adepticon, so I believe that is where I'm headed.
Yeah, I'm actually signed up as well. My kids are on spring break starting this Saturday, and we kind of do a big trip. So I was counting on the Thursday, Friday being the Grand Clash, which means that I am out for that. But I'm going to try and do the dice. What is it? Dice Box Heroes? Dice Heroes?
You're talking about the event
Wednesday night
Wednesday.
Event. Yeah. Going to try and do the Wednesday night event, and then I've already got the days blocked off, so I was like, well, I guess I'll do something else. So maybe, Brian, you and I will have to get together and tie our background together. It is very much a narrative directed thing. Right. If you want more, you can listen to some of the other the pods, but that might be a cool angle to take. I got some Slaanesh. You got some Slaves to Darkness. Let's make some magic happen.
Slaanesh Slaves to Darkness.
Excuse me. The magic is my territory. I will be making that happen.
Fair enough.
You have to take it from me.
Sounds like we got a rivalry. Like, we'll just throw the whole event, just killing each other. Sounds good.
I'm not playing to win. I'm playing to screw you guys over.
Fair enough. That might be a win in and of itself.
Ooh, there we go.
But let's talk about what we came here today for. The championship tourney, the Madtown Throwdown Q1. Just went down from our perspective yesterday, from the perspective of the listener 2 weeks ago. It was here in Madison at Noble Knight Games. They set us out some space, which we gladly used, and there are a couple other events there, but we even with a full house there's plenty of room for us. But in this case, we ended up only with a field of 6. That's our lowest turnout so far. I had a blast playing. It was our kind of local hardcore regulars that showed up. But I just wanted to touch on that because I can't lie. If at only 6, it's a little bit disappointing. Any thoughts on why we were down a little bit lower than our previous? We've been as high as 16 in that 10 to 12 range. So I'll throw it out to the group. Who's got some thoughts on why we're a little bit light in the attendance?
I'll go first. So I want to say a lot of it came down to a little split in the community between Nemesis and Championship format. I think between the somewhat slight amount of confusion behind what is Championship format, there's a little bit of doubt behind, are we limited to one of those plot decks? I would say it's leaning in the direction of plot, and we'll get back to my thoughts on that because I'd like to discuss that a little bit later. But the fact that a lot of players in our community, like during our league week, have been coming out the woodwork because of Nemesis, because it's a lower barrier to entry, and we've been seeing people with that. But then between the complexities of Championship and that being the reason that they came out, I think that's part of what's working against our community coming out to that one. I know there were also a handful of people coming out, people that wanted to come out but couldn't necessarily make it. And I feel like those numbers were higher.
Like we put a group of people as the wanted to make it but couldn't quite pull it together.
Right.
That was a higher than normal.
Just scheduling issues.
I think that was a good chunk of it too. It's not like we just suddenly had an entire community that was like, no, pass, because it's not Nemesis.
Right.
Like, that was only a piece of the puzzle, in my opinion.
Shout out to Joe Cody SC on our Discord. He was saying how eventually we'll schedule one where he can make it out from work. And again, we'll try and keep an eye out on our Discords for input on when Q2, Q3, Q4 will happen.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing them. And honestly, like, I've played in smaller events here. Like Phil and I played a 2-person event. It was just he and I. It was our very first one. We played a 3-person one where we got Kenny up. So if you told us then that we'd get 6, we would have. If you told us that at some point 6 would feel a little disappointing, we'd have been like, all right, I'm on board. So in some ways, it still represents some growth. I will mention with this where scheduling didn't quite work out. For me, I think one of the factors is that a lot of the people who have traditionally traveled for this sort of event. So we had a lot of our core in town, minus a few, but the travelers, like you need a little extra motivation. And traditionally those people have been folks who are excited to do the Grand Clash, who are excited to play a championship play. And I think there's some factor with the Adepticon being Nemesis format. I know a couple people that I've talked to, more than a couple, are looking at other places to play at Adepticon. Like, well, maybe I don't feel like doing, committing the time to the Grand Clash if it's a Nemesis format. And if you don't have that to look forward, if you don't have that, then this didn't, traditionally might have served as a primer for Adepticon, right? Like this would have been like, okay, I've picked my faction. I'm going to try and tune it up. But that's not really the case here because we were Championship, Adepticon's Nemesis. You can still get some reps with a warband you like, but it's not the same. And if you are feeling disheartened about Nemesis being the showcase event at Adepticon, then even if you would have enjoyed a championship event, then maybe you are less motivated to make that trip. So I think that played in as well.
I would agree. I definitely felt that personally, now that you mention it, we got the news that Adepticon was going to be Nemesis format. Got all hyped up for that. I remember getting in a headspace where I was like, okay, I'm thinking Gore Chosen, potentially the new warband. We even talked about it on the last episode. And then Whiplash going into championship for this tournament, and now back to Nemesis excitement. So
Yeah.
it is a bit Whiplashy. I can agree.
Yep.
Yeah. To jump off that, we have a local who has stated that he wishes that GW would come out and support officially one, like to say, Nemesis is 100% what we're doing, or Championship is 100% what we're doing, even just for the moment. Just, hey, as a community, we're asking you to support this format. If the goal right now is to have Nemesis as a current format, and we'll get back to Championship, for there to be an official announcement saying so, that has one local for us, particularly back and forth on which he should be playing. And so Nemesis is what he wants to be playing, but he stated, I'd be playing Championship every week if that was the officially supported format. So we're lacking that language that could assist in getting people kind of out of that, which format should I be spending my time gearing towards, right? Because with two formats that the community is kind of pivoting back and forth from, that requires more effort from the players.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I know we had a local who was planning on coming out, heard that we were doing best of threes, and let me know, with that, I won't be coming out, not because I don't want to be there and I don't enjoy this game, but I don't think I'm going to enjoy that time crunch, that pressure, getting that many games in over the course of a tournament. So that was interesting feedback as well.
One of the things I'm hearing here and elsewhere is that it's one thing what format has been selected to kind of focus on, but it's another is the communication, and I think we all feel a little bit adrift right now. I think we're wondering what the next release is. I think we're you can term it however you want, but I think the game is owed an errata, a FAR update, whatever way they decide to go with different things will determine how heavy that FAR needs to be. Forsaken and restricted list if you're new to the game, and for a lack of communication about here's what's coming up, there's been in the past years, GW has been pretty good about communication. It just feels like it's been a little bit radio silence for a little while, and I think there's just a little bit of anxiety over what does that mean? What does this radio silence mean in the presence of what feel like some fairly big changes to the season format, to what we're focusing on, to how Championship looks. I think there's understandable anxiety over that, and so I think that's affecting motivation to some extent.
Agreed. As it stands right now, we're looking at 28 tickets sold for Nemesis, for the Nemesis Grand Clash at Adepticon coming March 25th. I would love to see those numbers grow. I think that I hope there is enough new excitement being generated by the format that we're getting enough new players in. Maybe those are players that don't know to look to Adepticon for a tournament like this. I do think the numbers were higher last year for Championship at this point in time, only a few weeks after registration. And I think a lot of the long-term players would have traveled out for this, your travelers. And if Underworld's their main game system and they were looking forward to traveling for Championship, do they buy that plane ticket, that hotel room, that registration fee for Nemesis when that's not what they've been playing for the last X amount of years?
Yeah.
And that's a hard pill to swallow. If you're in those shoes, I want to let you know we will be there in force, and we'd love to see you there. We'd love to continue to build the community. And Nemesis does have a lot of good charm. I'm a Championship guy through and through. I would have loved to have seen a Championship event at Adepticon. I would love to have seen both formats at Adepticon on different days to just bring more Underworlds to Adepticon. We could have had more time choices. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, I want to play in Underworlds. I don't care if it's Nemesis or Championship, but I also want to play in this AOS event. Oh, well, cool. We've got 2 separately scheduled Underworlds events. You can do that. Whereas we kind of landed on, the one GW Grand Clash on Saturday and Sunday. And if that's competing with any other game systems, maybe it doesn't get your time. And if that's the only game system you're traveling for and it's not Championship, again, does that get your time? I will say, we've talked about this already in previous episodes. There is the Dice Heroes hosting a tournament on Wednesday night as well for Nemesis. Really glad to see that. So we do technically have 2 Underworlds events. Yep. And right now that's closed. That's full.
I'm in it. Yeah, I got waitlisted initially, and then it opened up, so I'm in it. And that, to some extent, that's encouraging, right? Like, 20 people for the Wednesday night is like not a primetime slot,
Agree.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm actually reaching out. I mentioned this in the last episode. I'm going to reach out to the Dice Heroes and see how hard locked those numbers are. I'm waitlisted, and I've heard from others that they saw that it was closed. But I think that if there is room for more for that event, we could probably fill that one up too a little bit more.
Skylar, you said you mentioned it last episode and you still haven't done anything. It's been 2 weeks, man. What's up? Just kidding. The magic of editing time travel. It's only been 4 days. So, all right. Anybody got anything else on it? Yeah. Time is no excuse. Anybody got anything else they want to share on that? I don't want to dwell too much on that because I do want to talk about the event and get into that. But leave the floor open for anyone else who's got a comment there.
No, I think you covered it well.
All right. Well, hearing no more, we're going to go back to the event itself. Again, we had 6 folks. It was the 4 of us on here, plus Phil, plus Alex for our contingent.
So fierce competition. It was a strong field.
Indeed. And I will say this. We had a little discussion because we didn't have any out of towners. We're like, okay, like normally here's what we do this amount of prize support. We do this trophy sort of thing without out of towners. Do we want to retain that for later? And my mind was like, I came with some heat. We'll talk about what everyone brought, but I brought a Hexbane deck that I thought was pretty powerful. It had quite a few wins under its belt recently, and I was like, I'm going to go full out. And if somebody like I'm not pulling any punches, and if somebody beats that, then power to them. And I think they can. I think we all came with something that we were really trying to win with, and I think that deserves to be recognized. So we decided after a little bit of discussion to go ahead because it's been a while since we did best of 3 championship play. So
yeah, we folded the prize support that you mentioned over for next time, but we still kept a legacy glass trophy on the table for whoever took the day.
Yeah. So I mentioned what I brought. I brought Hexbane. Alex, being Alex, brought his Kagra's Ravagers. I didn't actually I never played against him, and I never got to see one of his games, so I don't know much about what build he had.
Oh, you missed out. It's it's
I'm sure fun. I did. It sounds anything he does. I'm sure there was some knockback in there.
Oh, absolutely. Resident knockback artist.
Yeah.
It was a fearsome fortress pairing.
Oh, all right. I'm glad to know that there was something other than Daring Delvers out there because that's all I saw. Phil was running Starblood. So what all were you guys running?
I was running the Foretold Miari's Pingifiers. I remember I wasn't in one episode between, I believe Josh and Phil were recording that episode. It went live, and before I even had a chance to listen to it, I had people pinging me going, hey, what's that Miari's list? It sounds sick. Well, I'll tell you, I took that exact same list. I don't think there was a single modification from there. So that is a Daring Delvers pairing. I enjoy putting that plot card on the table and grabbing a token as if I'm going to pretend that I care about exploration for that first game, play a little head game.
Yeah.
But the build doesn't actually have any exploration tech in it.
We all know you really just took it for sudden demise and the stealthy advance.
Stealthy advance isn't in there.
Oh, no. All right. Never mind.
But we can talk more about that.
I'm thinking of the many other times I played against it, but sudden demise for sure.
For sure. You can't call it Ping of Fires with a Daring Delvers build and not have sudden demise front and center.
Brian, what do you got?
I brought Dread Pageant and Fearsome Fortress. Very light on the Dread Pageant, very heavy on the hold objective.
Okay.
And I got the wooden spoon, so spoiled. It did not work.
Fair enough. And Josh?
So I brought the also foretold Gore Chosen.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Davey give his reasoning for championship, and I couldn't help but think, speak for yourself. Because Davey's talking about, bringing the heat and this deck that I finally tuned, and I'm like, I completely got wrapped up in painting and forgot to build a deck. So I was literally waiting for people to show up as I was building my deck. And man. I don't say that to cheapen anybody's wins against me. I say that just
I feel
to give
so cheapened. Yeah.
Just to give a little bit of context as to I was playing my let's start that. I was playing my butt off.
Yeah.
In the mechanic sense to make up for the poor deck building that I went into this event with.
Fair enough. Well, we've got we got what everyone brought. Does anyone want to say the why? I can give mine. I feel like I traditionally try to take a little bit under the radar build or something a little off meta. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just try out something that's right on it, like something that is known to be powerful. And a tip of the hat to, I believe he was one of our Russian opponents, Timur. He had a Hexbane deck that blew me out of the water in the Vassal League. And I was like, all right, let me look. There are definitely cards in here that I haven't considered. So let me think about this. So kind of scooped up what he was building and tried it out. And I have some changes that if I had to do this over again, that I would make. But as I was trying it out, because it's a style that I really like. I really like that warband. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like even if they weren't top of the pile, I'd be really interested in playing this warband. I really like the options, the dynamics that they put in there, the hard choices that they can often put to the opponent. I like that style of play, even if I don't have it perfected or fully refined yet. So that was my thought process there. We'll go in the same order. How did you? I know, Skylar, you'd already been trying this out, but what made you say I'm going to stick with Miari's Ping of Fires?
Yeah. Before we jump over to that, I actually played against Timur in WTC, and he was running Haskell's Rascals at that time as well.
Yep.
Had a good old best of 3 against him, and he was a phenomenal opponent, and those games were a lot of fun. So happy to hear that you also had a friendly encounter with him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, just slaughtered my ghouls mercilessly. It was rough.
Friendly.
Yeah,
but as far as go ahead.
Nope. Lay it on me. What are the Ping of Fires? What do they call to you that made you say this is what I'm going to bring?
Yeah, so I am a sucker for a
pointy ears.
Got him.
So I'm also a sucker for a 4-band with a bunch of tools available to their disposal. I really enjoy the adaptability of a warband like Mad Mob and like the Purifiers. And I was really excited to spend some time with this particular warband. I wish I would have got them painted in advance. One thing too is if I win a local event with a warband, I won't bring them back. So that puts Soul Raid and Mad Mob on the shelf for this particular event. And Ping of Fires has just had my attention lately. There is some thrill with living on the edge with them. It's like anytime that roll comes in, it's almost always kill shot potential, right?
Yeah.
And then so you roll the dice. Are you safe? No, I'm not safe. All right, I'm going to use the Aether Quartz. Did I get a crit?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, you did.
Yeah, and Bahanar's like ability to stop cleave, like to tank up. I bring multiple Bahanar restricted only cards, and I put them out front at the beginning of the game. It's wild to me. That's not something I'd recommend for most warbands in the game. Yeah, put the fighter you're bringing the exclusive cards for right out front and center, and sure enough, somebody will come in and blow him up turn one. It's happened. Kagra's Ravagers at this tournament did exactly that. On 2 of the 3 games.
Yeah, Alex is not scared of making that low probability, high payoff attacks.
Not even a little bit. And then
that man's battle plan is, but if it works, this will be sick.
But when you're playing elves and Ping of Fires here particularly, you have to be ready to adapt. Like, you plan for losses, and that's really fun. So, yeah. And with Haskell's Rascals being in the mix, Aileen can really shine because she can bring cleave when she inspires, and whether she's inspiring or not, she can reroll off of most of their attacks. So she's a fun fighter for that particular matchup. And that's one where there hasn't been a night of League or like local play where I haven't seen them. So I had a feeling that they'd be there as well.
Yep. Brian, we know your dark passion for Slaanesh. Tell us why Dread Pageant.
Well, I'd been warband homeless. I was trying something new. I've tried 2 or 3 warbands at this point, and nothing was seeming to work. So I didn't really have a lot of time with any warband that I felt confident with. So I went back to the old tried and true and tried to do what I did last season, which was hold objectives in control. And it is an aggro meta.
Well, I will say this. There is a lot to be said for familiarity in general. Honestly, that's how way back to, I guess, what it was, Grand Clash 2019. It was not my intention to be the only Godsworn Hunt player there, but for this podcast, Phil and I were splitting the releases, and we weren't receiving content at the time, but we were like switching who would focus on what. I happened to be I'll do the dive into Godsworn. And all of a sudden I realized we're getting close to Adepticon. I'm like, well, that's all I've played. I guess that's what I'm going to play because I'm, that's what I know at this point. When in doubt, like there's a huge amount of mileage to be made on leaning on what you're familiar with. Part of why I was with Hexbane, like I considered briefly thinking of some other things, but like all my recent games have been with Hexbane. I think that might be just what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah, and that's basically what I was trying to tap into. I think the mistake there is that I would have got more success in leaning into the aggro than trying to do the hold objective. So it's like I could have used that familiarity with the current meta and current card pool better rather than leaning on the last season's card pool.
Yeah, and I did not play you. Obviously, I did not play you. Well, I don't know why I would say obviously. I didn't play you in this event. I have played you with them recently, and I played, over the past couple of years, I've played against your Dread Pageant a number of times, and I know that you have the experience and the depth of deck building with them to kind of change it up. So, like in the best of 3, when we're playing that first one, I'm like, if I'm playing you, I'm like, well, I actually don't know. Is he going to be trying to rush into my territory? Is he going to be trying to hold everything back? And it makes the deployment super hard. super hard to figure out, like that initial setup. Like, do I want boards? Do I want objectives? Am I pushing forward or am I hanging back? Because I know you're willing to change it up, and I know that you're comfortable with both play styles or multiple play styles.
Yeah. And not to make excuses for myself, but we had agreed that I was going to be air quotes TOing this one, sitting out if we had an odd number to just make sure everything ran smoothly.
Yep.
And so I wasn't trying to bring the heat. I was prepared to bring a ringer, but I pivoted from the ringer so that I would contribute to the strength of the pool. But that's what happens when you kind of take some time off to experiment with some other stuff. Kind of
sure
wasn't as by the end of it, I was not thinking clearly. I was kind of tilted. So
I don't know if any of us were thinking clearly. We'll get into that later. Josh, that just leaves you. And I think we've glossed over the fact, I mean, you mentioned that you'd spent all your time painting these guys. You and I did get to play. I'm a sucker for unexpected skin tones, which you've done with your warband. And if I tell you what, like, if you send me some pictures, I'll put it up on our Twitter feed. I would love to. I know they're not done, so maybe I'll wait until they're done. But these guys are some good looking boys. It was really a treat to play with them. So I did not want to get further than this and forget to say something about it. But.
Well, I appreciate it. Y'all have given me just that much more pressure to finish. Skylar's called me out. Now Davey's called me out. Now I've got to. Now if I don't finish them, especially after last episode where I said I was either going to finish them or die, and neither has happened. So
well, you might have a terminal
this.
Disease that we just haven't spotted yet. So
well. Yeah. It's been nice, folks.
I haven't said anything about them yet, so it'll be fine.
Rule of threes, yeah.
Yep. But anyway, that was 95% of the reason that I brought them. I was excited to paint them, excited to play with them, and I had a little bit of what Brian was going through, except these were the ones that I had the most reps with, and so I wanted to just play with what I was excited with.
Yeah, you've been playing them recently. I think I watched you, or I came in the last league I was at, league night. You had a Gore Chosen Mirror match, which was a lot of beef slamming into beef.
The funny thing about that is, and I don't know if I've said it on the podcast yet before, I know exactly which game you're talking about, and it was fascinating going into that because we both decided to do a build. And our build strategy started with, man, this ping meta is just awful. I'm going to do X. That's where we started. And we went in completely different directions from there. I leaned whole hog into, I'm going to just fit as many pings. By the way, it's a lot with Gore Chosen. I'm going to fit as many pings as I am in this and just lean into it. And my opponent went in the complete opposite direction and said, you know what? I'm going to put as many heals and wound upgrades as I can so that your ping doesn't matter. And oh boy, was that a head trip. I think in that specific matchup, and this is not a brag or a skill comparison, I think in that matchup, my side wins that probably 7 out of 10 times. But my opponents, I think, might be more disruptive in the current meta than mine will.
Fair enough. Well, Skylar, did we?
Yes, we
did.
Okay, we hit him first.
Ticked off to me.
Lost track. All right. Well, that's why we took what we took. I don't want to do a game-by-game shot of things, but what I'd like to do is for folks to hit the highlights of their games. So, and by highlights, I mean like any standout moments that you thought had were worthy of talking about. So let's bring it back to you, Skylar. What would we'll do our first round stuff here. Anything stand out in your first round? And who were you playing and what stood out in your first round?
Yeah. So this was, my first matchup was Kagra, Ravagers, so Alex. And again, that was a fearsome fortress build. And Kagra has more time on, Alex has more time on.
You can call him Kagra. He probably appreciate that. Yeah.
On the Ravagers than I have on any warband I play. And he probably rivals Brian's time on Dread Pageant at this point.
Yeah.
So when Alex sits down across the table with Ravagers, he's bringing tons of experience and limit testing with them.
Yeah.
So he's very aware of their capabilities, and he's played through some really rough times with them, and they've been handed a power spike this season. So
it's a tax return.
It is always a joy watching him play those. And one thing that caught me off guard. So first off, and he did it at the beginning of the first game. If you place Bahanar within charging distance of where Kagra could get placed, he will put Kagra there, and he will rush in first turn. Period. Consequences be damned. So, it's like, I'm going to take Bahanar out, or I'm going to, suffer the wrath of some hyper accurate elves. But first game of the tournament, he comes in, gets the kill. It's just like, all right, this is how we're starting.
Man, I remember those moments from last year's Clash where I just that first charge comes in, you're like, I'm probably fine. And then you see the dice come up and it's like a, double success. You're like, oh my God, I need to roll double blocks here. And then you see that cold sweat starts and then you don't get it. You're like, okay, I have not activated and I'm a fighter down, one of my most important fighters. Let's see how the rest of this goes. So,
exactly. You look at a Bahanar specific card in your hand, and you're like, oh boy.
Oh, good.
And a card down.
Yeah.
And then, so second game, I was like, all right, I'm not going to do that again. I don't want to play the probability game here and start off on a back foot again. So I'm going to make sure that I ended up placing boards for that one. I skewed the boards, made sure that where I wanted to land my units, he would not be able to reach Bahanar. Well, little did I know, the Ravagers have a teleportation spell. And all they need to do, I believe, is get one focus off of 2 spell dice. So
75% chance to hit.
All of a sudden,
75% of the time, it works every time. Yeah.
So I think I took first turn, and then going into Alex's first turn, he teleports Kagra right next to Bahanar, and then kills Bahanar with his activation. I was just like,
second verse, same as the first.
Oh God.
Yeah. So that was pretty crazy. And none of my rounds, this one or the following 2, were done in 2. They went to 3 in each case. So I don't particularly remember the third game. Bit of a blur, but they were really well fought. Don't ever think when Kagra's comes up that they're still at the power level that they've been memed into, because they will show you otherwise.
And I will say this: watch out for them at the Grand Clash, because I think Kagra's in Nemesis get a step up even beyond that. So
I would agree.
I could be wrong, but my experience has been that they're pretty good in that. Once some of the deck building has been taken away from some of the other war bands. But Josh, what do you got for your first round highlights?
So first round highlights, I was up against Brian, so we can probably kind of tag team this one.
Yep.
First round highlights were, so Davey, you mentioned that Brian's got some skill and he's got some flex.
Yeah.
I agree. But one of the things that Brian had going against him going into this is I didn't have any of that doubt, because I knew he was playing Fearsome Fortress. So there was no element of surprise there. I knew he wanted to be in the midboard. I knew he was going to be playing fairly defensively, and it just did not work out for him. Not from a mechanical standpoint. I think the idea was there and it had play, but dice were dice at sometimes, and with as much ping as I had loaded into my deck and a couple of just not great defensive throws. I think the last game we did end up going to 3, so it wasn't like it was a blowout and I just absolutely creamed him. They were close games, but between ping and just negative dice results, I think I took it on that third one.
Yeah, the first game was certainly a blowout. The second game, all of a sudden he's like, "Are you winning this?"
One of the things,
yes, sir. We gotta go to 3. Let's go.
It was super annoying because one of the things that Dread Pageant and Brian piloting Dread Pageant does really well is scoring despite everything you're doing against them. So they can just be having the absolute worst luck on the dice, and somehow the glory just keeps stacking up.
That sounds like a good deck build.
It's amazing. It's great to watch, and it was. I know Brian was getting disheartened a little in. I think it was the second game, and then things started turning around, and I'm like, well, now I felt bad for you for a moment there, and then I didn't. So thank you for that.
Brian, anything to add on that game match?
Yeah, it's trying to dance in the middle with Gorchosen, who that is their home turf. It was
that's a good point. Yep.
Though one thing that I did not anticipate, and it took some hard learning, and I didn't really pick up on it. I think I inspired him all 3 games, which is rare. It's a difficult inspire for them to have, and I did it 3 out of 3 games.
I will say, if there's ever a matchup where it's going to happen, it feels like Gorchosen is it, though, with like a 4 wound, a 5 wound, and a 5/6 wound fighter. And then if the cow gets involved, like that's a lot of wounds that can get spread around the board. That does not surprise me at all. Like if I was going to guess one matchup that they would inspire against, that might be it.
Yeah, but it was not something that I thought of going into the match, and it was just kind of one of those, oh, hey, look at all the wound counters. And
Well, it's not nothing. Once Vasilak is cleave and 3 damage with range 2, like he has a real.
He didn't let me play with that toy much.
Yeah, no, that was one that I made sure to take away from him as soon as I could.
Yeah, I no to that toy.
Well, I played against an opponent that I haven't seen very often. That would be Phil. He had his. He had his Starblood and obviously my Hexbane going in there. And I don't feel like it's a matchup I've seen all that often. Phil was fairly certain going into this that it was not, that he was really behind on this. He felt like he bleeds too much glory in that matchup. And we both have a deck that, like, I like seeing a bigger warband with lots of killable fighters because I'm running Pure Carnage, so that makes that easier to get to. But I generally play against Starblood as if they are going to score the Great Plan, like that there's nothing I can do about it. So whatever their score is, it's actually 3 glory higher until they score that. He was running Daring Delvers. And this was of the 3 matches, 8 games I played, I definitely got sudden demised 8 times. With that many small fighters, it's just going to happen at some point. So that was the way of things. But the first one kind of it was almost an error of deployment where I had Bridget off on her own, not on her own, but like in range of a Clacktrock charge to start. He forced me to go first. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, he's going to get Bridget. And I don't really have stuff in my hand to really capitalize with Price of Victory. So I can't, I have an okay payoff, but not a great one. If he's going to have the chance to do it, why don't I just send, like, that's the only person he could get. Why don't I risk it, send her in, try and get the volley off. And then I also had a ping in hand, which I did. So first activation, charged in. Bridget, with the help of Rat Spike, lands a point blank hit on Clacktrock, gets him to vulnerable, scores toyed with pings him off. So I'm 2 glory up, and he's lost Clacktrock before he's taken an activation. And then it's not easy mode, but it feels pretty good from there. The second one, he actually longboarded me, and I had learned a little bit from Timur that is not as bad as it seems. You can have the dogs in the back and then kind of drag them forward, a couple moves here, and they can really make up a lot of ground. But I made some kind of bad choices in that game because I think I started round 1 with due process, and so I was worried that I was going to have to make 4 attacks to have that go off, and so I was running forward for attacks that were putting me in bad positions to score a surge. That was going to take a lot of the round to do. I ended up getting it with the crazy Hexbane ability to, I think I scored 7 glory in the last end phase because they have pure carnage and proof of guilt and lives well spent, or great gains in my case. So, but that second game, it definitely felt like Phil was going to win it for most of the time. I definitely made some errors. And it was one of those wins you come away from, you're like, I don't really feel like I super earned that win. I don't know. I either because of dice or you just didn't feel like you're in control of it for a long time and kind of dug it out randomly. But came out with that win. So we were, Josh, Skylar, and I were coming into the next round with a win each. And Brian was headed elsewhere.
That's a neutral way of saying that.
Brian, well, to that point, Brian, let's start with you for round 2. You got any highlights from round 2 here?
Round 2, I went into Skylar for some reason, and so I got to taste the pingifiers again. The big highlight from that one was I was able to first round sadistic stab Bahanar and my to kill, which then that was the height of my successes that round.
Everything was downhill from there.
You get used to Bahanar being dead and having to play around that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good practice.
Yeah, he was really good at holding objectives and denying me those objectives, but then also just pinging pings and couldn't weather the fire. But then game 2, I did somehow manage to pull that one off. I think I killed Bahanar relatively early, but as long as I have 2 fighters holding objectives in enemy territory, I can score a lot. I had extraordinary revelation in there. So got that and managed to just, I don't think I tabled you, but I just managed to outscore. Or no, was that a tie for?
Yeah, that's what it was, indeed.
It was a tie for objectives.
We tied that one low. I believe it was 11-11.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had removed me from the board to win tiebreaker there.
I did. That's right.
Tell me about your third match in tiebreakers.
Oh, this.
Speaking of playing a best of 3 and having a little bit of brain burn at the end.
Yeah, I felt like I was consistent. I don't want to blame dice. Scout was definitely keeping his wits about him more than I was, and all my opponents were. But I felt like I was consistently rolling 4 to 5 dice in many of my attack actions. Looking for swords, usually due to Curse Boarding Pike, Curse Cutlass, Slake Slash Inspired, Lurking Horror also in my deck, and all that. And I usually came out with 1 success as a result for those rolls, so my opponents didn't have to roll too hard. So in game 3, it felt a bit like an uphill battle. It did come down to the wire. And my God, so I did manage to wipe him in game 3. And who was my last standing fighter? Was that?
It was Slake Slash.
Slake Slash bold engineered onto an objective.
Hold on, back this up. Okay, go ahead. So you could do what?
Because we were at 8 to 10. I had God Seekers in hand, which is all of my fighters be in enemy territory.
Yeah.
Slick Slash was 1 hex within enemy territory. I pulled an objective from No Man's Land under Slick Slash with Bold Engineer after killing his last fighter to now be on an objective in case of tiebreakers, because as I'm looking at it, he's got 10, I've got 8, and I've got 2 glory in hand with God Seekers being in enemy territory.
And Brian has not realized yet that with me being tabled, we'll win the tiebreaker alone.
Oh no! So I tried to set this up as like to troll you, but I didn't know how bad this story was because I didn't have this piece. I didn't know Skylar was wiped in this game.
Yep, I am sitting.
Brian.
Keep your wits about you, kids. You can win games if you're not tilted.
I have Lethal Ward in my hand and Chum the Waters. And, it's 8-10 right now. I know he can score at least 2 points. I really need this to happen. And he Bold Engineers that underneath him. And I'm just like, oh, thank you. I Lethal Ward and he goes, oh, no. And then sure enough, the game wraps 10-12. Had that Chum not gone off, it would have been 10-10 tie in his favor. I would have lost that series.
Oh my God. I wasn't involved in this game. I feel sick. I've heard part of this story before and I feel sick.
Yeah. I looked up, I just looked up our score too. First game was the one I took. That one was it looks like a bit of a blowout on the score side. It was 19-4. But then the second game was 18-18. So I misremembered that one being tight or low at 11-11. It was really this last one that almost came down to a tie at 10-10. They were great games. I want to say that anytime Brian puts the Dread Pageant across from you, you need to be ready. Like, he is extremely formidable. Even, whipping that deck up last minute, because he originally thought he'd be, sitting out completely and TOing. I knew I need to take this as seriously as possible because there's a strong possibility I lose this series to Brian's best warband. Like, this is his most practiced event. And going into it as well, knowing that he benefits from Sadistic Stab as with a Slanesh keyword. I know it's in that deck, and I know that any attack that comes in at 2 damage is a kill until I've seen Sadistic Stab. I need to treat it that way. So I was spending Aether Quartz before I would see the Sadistic Stab, simply to make sure that it didn't go that far, and I would still lose Bahanar. There was one time during the game, I was like, I need that Aether Quartz. I need it for Elemental Blessing. I can't give it to you. And I didn't re-roll, and I just clenched and like opened one eye and looked at you, and you're like, I don't have Sadistic Stab right now. I was like, oh, thank God. Yeah, it was a really great series.
Meanwhile, one table over, Josh and I are playing. Josh, what highlights do you have from this game?
Oh my gosh, this was easily my favorite series.
Hey,
because Davey will be humble and not say it himself, a very strong warband piloted by a very skilled pilot, and the games being as close as they were.
Oh, yeah.
I felt at the end of these games that I had played my best with maybe 1 or 2 mistakes, and it just did not work out. And so I like those games when they're close, they're challenging, win or lose. I really enjoy those the most, and that was the outcome for those.
Well, all right. For me, it was a couple things. So you won the first one pretty handily. By 3, but it was one of those by 3. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you won it by 3. But it was not as close as that makes it sound. Like I was doing catch up to close the differential. Like you had You maybe wiped me out. It was not great.
I might have tabled you game 1.
Yeah, and that I think that game came down to, in the second round, I had Hexbane himself in a little bit of a vulnerable spot. He had the lucky Hex Bigfoot for 2 block. Amos was close enough to support, so he's 2 block and supported. You have a fighter, Herax. So Herax versus Hexbane, little mix up there. But he's got great strength, so he's got the damage to land the kill, because I haven't put any wound upgrades on yet. And I'm looking at it from my side of the board. This is an error on my part, because I'm projecting my own play style onto you. Whereas, like, I wouldn't be willing to. I'm like, I don't think I'd be willing to risk that attack this early. And so in my hand, I've got the card that says no modifiers to the next attack. So I could play that and say, you don't have lethal damage anymore, right? And I was like, I don't think he's going to do that this early. I think he's going to, try and make some hay elsewhere, do some progress before he commits to that charge. I'll hang on to this for a later turn to really shut him down. I pass. You say, I'm charging with Herax. I'm like, oh, crap. And you land it. And it was that sort of, I think I looked it up back afterwards. It's like a 31% to land. So a relatively low probability. But the thing was, like, if you land it, I think I only had, that might've been a game where, like, you left me with just Pock and both dogs. So Pock and both dogs, none of whom are inspired. So Pock's got 1 crossbow shot. I don't have any weapons in deck. And I was like, oh man, I really don't have a way back here. And it was me failing to identify that, like, this is a hard loss condition. If I let Hexbane die this early before he does any work this round, I just lose. And you identified that is a win condition right there, and you took it, got it. So, yep. And the other thing I really liked about this match is it's been a while since I played best of 3, and you had a deck that made best of 3 interesting.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on that, and that was going to be my next comment. Was I made some last-minute deck building errors in that there were some projected outcomes, and the 2 that come to mind are Chum, which is pretty difficult to play around. You either want to be on objectives and you're a little bit bloodied and ping is going to happen, but the other was Shifting Walls.
Yeah.
That has been one that I've thrown into several decks as just a last minute. I'm not entirely sure what else, and I know that this is at least going to make you work for it. But between the 2 of them, I had 4 glory in my objective deck that you could read, and I got them. I got one or the other, but I don't think I got both in games 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think I managed to shut them both down in game 3. I think I blocked 1 in game 2, and to the extent that I was still on autopilot in game 2, in game 3 I finally wised up and I picked the board with a couple block hexes to give myself more ability to deny, because I had basically I needed a little extra breathing room with positioning. I need a few more options other than having to run somebody out to the edge, which I can do with the dogs. Like, it should be possible, but I just need the latitude to be able to do that. And by having some blocked, I was able to do that without sacrificing too much of my own game plan. But I love that. I love that about best of 3 is, like, here's what this deck has. Here's ways I can deny that. That's one of the reasons I really like the best of 3 play with these.
I agree. And I think game 3, what was the most frustrating about it, for me anyway, was I was down to 1 fighter, and I didn't think that there was going to be anything more than an activation where I was doing anything. Yeah. And it was a missed attack, so it was just the worst feeling to just be like, I have to charge my first activation, and if it doesn't work, this is game.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of a low light amidst a bunch of great highlights.
Well, and I'll say the other thing is you won the first game of the match, and then the second game of the match, you played. Tell me what the upgrade is that is like, I won't die until the end of the round. Do you remember the name of that?
Final Frenzy.
Final Frenzy. So you played Final Frenzy out. And meanwhile, in hand, I had like eye for an eye, which needs me to kill with an attack. And I was like, oh, what the hell? I can't do this. Like, this is a surge. So this is not only is it dead, but I was like, going into the round, I was like, I've got Drom. He's only got 2 wounds left. Like, this is a guaranteed. I have enough fighters and enough accuracy that this is going to happen. And I'll get this 1 glory. I'll get the 2 for him dying. I'll cycle into something else. I know what's at the bottom of this. Like, I'm 100% good to go. And I was like, well, actually it's dead. And I couldn't find the other thing I had was toyed with, and I couldn't find a way to make that happen. And so I'm like, I got 2 surges and they're both dead in hand. But I also have to spend like activations, like trying to get away from you, I guess. And so I think I literally said at one point where you killed somebody, I was like, I think I just lost. Like, I think I just lost the whole match. But I managed to get onto an objective, cycle to the right card, and then score enough to catch up and then win on tiebreaker. So that game went from like, I think I'm losing, to like, I guess I won on tiebreaker, to then winning round 3. And
would you like to share with the class your shame?
You're gonna have to remind me, because I don't.
Oh no! Oh, okay.
There's a lot of shame.
No, there's a particularly.
Is it that I should have scored toyed with?
Oh no! It's it's what you did to your dog, and what you did it to do.
Oh yeah, there was a lethal out, and I was not going to score. I had enough people alive that I could not score pure carnage, but I ran the dog back and forth through a lethal to kill
You're
it.
Sick man.
Yeah,
he is a sick man, because I held off to deny him pure carnage, and he did it to his dog.
Yeah, not only that, but to the dog, to the first dog. So you did not get any glory. Yeah, I gave no glory, and it opened up pure carnage for me, which was pretty good.
So I had to interject with interesting there, because Josh, he does this to me later too. I've done the math. We're at 6 models. I'm like, all right, we're safe from pure carnage. And then I had actually taken like an arrow shot on a dog round 1, and it was set up for sudden demise. It never panned out on that target. But that wound was still sitting there, and for his last activation of that game, he just runs the dog's, like, activates the dog, runs it straight into a lethal, and I'm just, no!
Yeah, I remember looking I think I specifically said, like, wait, hold on, this is Grot Rider? He's got a wound on him? Oh, hell yeah. And then, like, ran him off into the lethal. So, yeah. Anyway, so I stagger out of a bruising. It's one of those, like, wins that you come away from, and, like, I feel like I spent most of that match losing, and somehow I came away with a win, and then tumbled into round 3.
If I could real quick, I actually want to circle back to Brian in my match a little bit, because I want to highlight how impressive it was that Brian almost took this series. I think that this was an incredibly difficult matchup for him. He's got 2 of his 4 units or fighters that could be pinged down at any point in time during the game. I've got 5 pings in this deck. So they're living on borrowed time right out of the gate. I'm also playing Hold 2, and Brian tends to play, and was indeed playing Hold 2 and with a flex of Hold More with the Warband. So we're both trying to accomplish this hold, but I've got this ping kit, keeping his fighters on edge at any point in time. I've got Lethal Ward in there, quick roots. So it could be as simple as, Glazette runs over to an objective, and I quick roots her, and then I Lethal Ward her, right? And all of a sudden that has, possibly swung me sudden demise, as well as then lost him that position that he was planning on holding. And, with a fighter like Glazette, that's normally going to be really hard to take down, can probably hold that for a period of time. He doesn't have that fighter, just given the fact that I can burst her down like that, or I've got multiple sources of cleave, and even rerolls and cleave and snare coming off of a Miari's Purifier specific upgrade. So it's an extremely hard matchup, and I lost it due to one small miscalculation by Brian at the end of, a laborious third. Like, he must have been burning his brain into overtime to get us to where we ended up. And props to you, man. You are such a threat with them.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Don't tilt kids.
Well, Skylar and I were going to face off on the finals, but so let's hit these other games first. Brian, what was your final round against?
Against Alex's Kagras Ravagers, and I was in full tilt mode at this point. Man, I couldn't get anything rolling. I took a few heads, but this was my only series that didn't go to 3 games. I recognized that there was a couple mistakes where I could have potentially turned things around. I didn't play cards that I had in hand. Alex was gracious enough to allow me to shared pain, something that I was just like in nihilistic mode and just like, yep, they're dead. And then I was like, wait, I had this in hand. May I? And he'd already scored cards and he's like, yep. And so he was gracious enough to take it back. But yeah, it was really disheartening when I couldn't get like any tax to land with 4 and 5 dice being thrown. But ultimately he won that. Well played to him, and I take 3 losses for the day, earning me the wooden spoon.
Oof-a-doof. I'm going to rewind it to my very first round. You're talking about gracious opponents, and against Phil, he had played Zone of Control, so everybody on a feature or a starting hex is on guard. Came in, attacked Hexbane, so like a really important fighter, drove him back into a lethal, killed him. Scored all the glory, started cycling, and I was hanging my head. I was like, I guess we're going to 3. And to Phil's credit, like, he noticed we progressed even, like we were about to take the next activation. He's like, hold on, you were on a starting hex. Your dice that you rolled was a dodge, so you rolled a success. So not only could I not have driven you back and scored sudden demise and killed Hexbane, but it wasn't even a successful attack. And so I think it pulled like 4 glory off the board for him, and then actually put 1 in my hand because I think I had contested equals that scored off it, and I didn't notice it at all. And Phil could have said nothing, and instead he spoke up after the fact and said, "Hey, I saw this. We did this wrong, and there's still time to correct it." And that lost him that match 100%. So it's that kind of spirit of fair competition, which I was pretty impressed by, very appreciative of. So.
Yeah, and I'm always willing to give that graciousness, give and take. We all make mistakes, and if the timing hasn't been too long, I'm always happy to give it to my opponent. Like I said, Alex had already scored some cards, so I was like still in a relative window, but that was a big take backsies that I requested of him. I didn't take anything else back, and it was well played by him. I hope that in my tilt mode I wasn't raging out or anything, but I was very short and clipped with my opponent, so I apologize to Skylar as you were beginning to get the front end of that. But yeah, it was a rough dice day.
Well, thanks for saying so, but you're all good. It actually didn't overly manifest.
Yeah, everybody was playing well. I just wish I could have played as well as I thought I was going to, but you manage it, and I managed it poorly. But yeah, so that was, like I said, the only series that went 2 games for me, and Alex took both of those, so that wraps it up for me.
Fair enough. Josh, what was your last round?
So going into this matchup with Phil, we both kind of agreed going into it that it was going to tilt one way or the other. Either the Gore Chosen were just going to absolutely knock it out of the park and crush a bunch of lizards, and it was going to be a bad day, or the lizards were just going to sit on things and have their way with it, and Gore Chosen didn't roll dice and couldn't do much about it. It was neither of those things. It was very close games across the board, to the point where we got to the middle of our second game and it was still really close, looking like I had the potential to tie it up, and Phil and I were basically just like, look, I think we're squabbling over the potential for maybe second place if the loser at the top table loses hard enough. Let's just call it after this game because we're just so brain burned. But there was still a lot of good plays on both sides. One of the things that I really struggled with during that matchup in particular was skinks were just all over the map, and I didn't have the action economy to keep up. So while, yes, when I did make actions, I was dropping bodies at times, it was just that much more critical when I wasn't, because they were so spread out that if I ran a charge, sure, I still had that fourth activation, but the likelihood that I was going to get to use it was low. So between chasing skinks all over the board and just not being able to play my deck the way that I had set it up to because of that, that's what I attribute the challenges to. But like I said, it wasn't enough to make them blowouts either way. They were both two close games, but mercifully, Phil won it in two.
Mercifully. All right. Well, that just leaves Skylar and me sitting on the finals. I come over there and we match off, and playing into this, let me think about it. So I already daring Delvers twice, and I knew like pings were rough on me because it's relatively easier to remove my fighters with pings. But having played against it twice and, somehow dragged myself through it twice, I'm like, I can do this. And I know Miari's pretty well. The one downside on this is that in our team tournament, which we talked about a little while ago on this show, as team captain, I mercilessly threw Skylar to the Haskell Hexbane's
3 times.
Wolves 3 times. So if there's somebody who knew the warband I was playing pretty well, it was Skylar. And I was like, he's going to know a lot of these tricks that I have up my sleeve, and I'm not going to be able to surprise him with too much here. And indeed that was the case. There was again with best of 3, like I love the dynamic of like trying to learn, like, do I want to have board advantage? Do I want to have feature token advantage? There's some back and forth there. The first round, Skylar, you ended up taking that relatively handily. I made it close. I got it within 3, but again, it was one of those like I'm scoring to reduce the glory differential, which in this case is not that big deal. A big part of this game was I was trying my damnedest to kill Bahanar. I was throwing 4 dice attacks into him, and it was really like a crit race because you had enough defensive things that the only way I was likely to get through is for me to roll a crit, and you did not. And there was one crucial moment where I'd gotten a crit success. You'd gotten, I think, 2 successes, and you were like, well, I got to use the Aether Quartz. I don't know if this was going to be a kill or if you had correctly identified that I had a ping in hand and that was going to finish you off.
That was the case here. I was still full health, 2 damage incoming, and I was thinking about the different reasons why that could be awful for me. I was thinking through, and actually this particular moment I think is an early moment in game 3 for us.
So I'm thinking of a different moment. This is still in game 1.
Oh, okay.
You made an interesting move where you had retreated back into a lethal hex.
Yes.
And I remember at that time I was like, oh man, that's a bold move. Like he's taking 1 damage on a 3 wound fighter. And if he built this deck like I built it, he doesn't have extra wounds in here anywhere. So he's getting himself. And on the other hand, like, you're correctly identifying that most of my stuff, if it's going to get through, might have grievous, whatever the case may be. But I'd lay that on you, and it was that sort of crit success. I'm like, all right, this is getting through. You roll, and you're like, well, I'm going to use the ether quartz. I might as well. And I was like, all right, well, all they can do, like the only way to get out of this is if he ether quartzes into a crit, which you did. And I started to get, Brian says, don't go on tilt, kids. I started getting a little tilted because I think I threw like 4, 5, 6 attacks with 4 dice and could not break through. It was again and again and again, and he was just absorbing. And I threw one off on your boss and couldn't make it happen, and ended up too far behind on that game. So I lose that first game on that. But that's the thing where like you can't, if you get wrapped up on like, did somebody roll a crit or not, you're really, I've said this before, you're not looking at what the odds of that attack in the first place of going off were. And you were often like 2 block in cover or 2 block on guard or whatever the case may be. So you're setting up this situation where you had a fighter that was very important, but also extraordinarily well defended. And it was just tough for me to break through.
That lethal placement was a fun moment too. We actually had a bit of candor when it occurred because, it caught you by surprise in the moment. Just,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Damaging Bahanar here. Oh, is this because my, positionally, the lethal is behind an objective that I have Miari on at this point in time. So you snapped to the conclusion immediately. Just, is this to make sure that I can't, get 2 damage on your leader and push him in for the kill? And it's like, yep, it is. And as a bonus, I also have cryptic clues in my hand. I could have grabbed a safer option, a cover hex, but I need Miari alive.
Yeah, and I also remember at the start of this game where you almost didn't place next to it because you're like, okay, like, don't want to get pushed back into this. I'm like, are you talking about Bahanar who can't get pushed before he has a move? And you're like, oh yeah, and like it was just that kind of point in the day where the brains were a little bit fried from having played a bunch of best of threes, which we're not used to. So
absolutely, yeah. That was one of the things I enjoyed about the best of 3 format of the day is, we're going to be going into Adepticon, and that's going to be best of 3. And it's been so long since we've done them that I couldn't believe how worn out we were, like, going into that series, and especially then by the end.
Yeah. Let's see. I remember game 2, I managed to kill Bahanar almost immediately with that similar gambit of a charge with the dog's help, laying 2 damage, I guess, onto Bahanar and then finishing him off with a ping. And I think your words at that point was like, well, this game's going to be very different.
Yep.
And to your credit, like, we played that. It was, I was very much in danger of losing the game until the last, and when I threw a dog, I kind of took it in 2 different ways. I secured myself with pure carnage by throwing a dog into a lethal right at the end, and busted out Drifting Tides to steal the tiebreaker. So that one I had 2 different ways to send us to 3. I don't know if you have any other recollections from game 2.
From game 2? Not particularly. At this point in time, our games have been super close. First one ended 18-16. Second one ended 15-18 in your favor there. And then on to game 3 for us.
Yeah, and I think you won this roll-off, so you had the choice. You thought about longboarding me. We kind of talked it through. You decided not to, and then we talked through, and I kind of agreed with your reasoning. And this is something I want to talk to just briefly. You had a deck that you had perfect formation, which was the surge for 2 if you're holding 3 objectives. So if you were setting yourself up with this relatively, not passive, but the ability to hang back. Like, if we both hung back, then you were going to outscore me, or you were going to power up too fast for me to be able to match. And so you making sure that you had 3 objectives that you could access was more important than anything else. And you took that. In this game, I drew, my first hand had 3 end phase objectives, so I had to mulligan it. And then I drew into Toyed With Unequal Contest and Trace the Ley Lines, which is a pretty weak starting hand. Unequal Contest was kind of a dud for me a lot of the weekend. it's especially tough against Miaris because even on the rolls where I'll get 2 successes, you often end up just defending those anyway. Or like where I get all successes, you have enough dice where so it got shut down a lot against you. And this is a rough one. I'll let you share some thoughts and then I'll circle back around. But go ahead.
There was a particularly fun moment that I wanted to talk with you about. Didn't get a chance to talk with you about it at the tournament. So this is going to be new for you. There was a game, and I think it was game 3, but they blur a little bit together, where you sent Pock out first with a dog, and I ended up coming at him and dealing 2 damage to him. And when I did, I pushed him onto a feature token, and I did that very intentionally at that time. I wanted you to think that I had Lethal Ward in my hand.
Well, 2 damage to Pock would kill him, so it must have been 1 or it must have been somebody else.
Oh, no, you're right. It was 1 damage. Or it was Amos. Yeah. That's what this was. It was Amos. Yeah. I pushed Amos onto it, and I was trying to play a mind game with you, but it doesn't work as well when you get the reaction after your activation. So the mind game I was trying to play with you was, well, why would he he's trying to hold, why would he push me onto this objective? Oh no, does he have a Lethal Ward in his hand? Well, if I had Lethal Ward in my hand, what would be the reason for me not playing it immediately? So that's where the mind game kind of falls apart. But I was hoping that maybe you'd ask that question anyways and delve, because I had Blind Gamble in my hand.
Oh. Wow, that was way beyond my ability to think at that point. But I appreciate your thinking that I might still be thinking at that level. So.
This was also the game. I was hinting to this earlier with the Bahanar Aether Quartz decision, where you come in with 2 damage against Bahanar. It's going to hit. I think I rolled nothing, and I don't even recall if you had a crit in your roll.
I didn't have a crit. This was my first attack of the game. It was I want to say it was Amos and a dog coming in, and I think I was actually 2 successes to your 1 success.
Okay.
And then actually Brian came over for this, and he was like, "Oh, it's only 2 damage. Are you gonna burn an Aether Quartz on that?" And you're like, and then you talk through this. You were saying out loud, even, you're like, yeah, because based on the previous 2 games, like there's Dark Command, there's the making a point, like there are pings that he may or may not have in hand, and if I don't use this now, he may be able to finish me off. And here I am looking at Dark Command in my hand, being like, be cool.
Toyed with, and I know if I give you any leverage on Glory seed at the beginning of the game, I'm going to be punished for it. So I opt into that early Aether Quartz, and when I found out later what all that could have meant.
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly that. I had both Toyed with and I had Dark Command. So you took the Aether Quartz. It's a 50-50. You come up with the shield, and or possibly a crit, I don't remember. Whatever the case, you come up with the defense you need. And Bahanar lives. He lives to the next attack. I try to divert onto another. Basically, the first 3 activations on each side of this game all go in your favor, either defensively or offensively, on both sides. And it takes me until the 4th activation to finally kill a guy. And this is a thing where, like, I'm looking at glory denial, because I know based on our previous ones and based on your positioning, Skylar is 100% repping that he has cryptic clues in hand, because everybody has moved on to a feature or a cover or whatever the case. And I have the ability I can either kill Salin? Why am I?
Yeah, it was either Sanela or Aileen.
Sanela. I can either kill Sanela, or I can push Sanela out to deny that. And I'm thinking about, like, well, if I push Sanela out and don't kill her, you may have a push to correct that. And even if you don't, what I'm doing is I'm denying you a 2 glory, and you were just in flow state. Your glory count was really high. it was one of those situations where you're hitting like a surge leading into a surge that you needed leading into a surge. And then I didn't know this yet, but you were leading into end phase that you really was going to score out. I considered trying for glory denial here, but that would have blanked me. I would have ended the round with 0. And so I could have, in retrospect, if I'd gone for the denial, we would have gone into the next round 10-0. Instead, we went 2-12. And 2-12, for what it's worth, is way better than 10-0 because at least let me get some more stuff out. So,
right. Yeah, the first 2 activations of that game were all the like an incredible foundation for the rest of the game for me, because you come in attacking Bahanar, I spend that Aether Quartz. You don't get that seed glory. I still have Bahanar on the board. Turn over to me for my first activation. I rush Miari onto kind of a winged out objective placement, but within range 3 of a dog. I throw spell dice at the dog, get 1 damage down, and then I have Flame Wisps in my hand. So, roll 2 or 3 dice if you're a wizard, spell dice, and look for matching symbols to get a ping down. So I'm able to get that ping down on the dog immediately following that turn. This dog would not normally yield me glory, but instead it's starting me off of my first activation with 2 glory off a sudden demise.
2 glory off a sudden demise and a cycle into another surge that you can score, because I think that's how you ended up seeing perfect formation.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
That is what I drew there, I believe.
Yep.
No, contest of equals, and then that scored. It was like you said, flow state. By the end of the round, I had scored enough surges to get me 6 glory, and then, including a kill in there. So 5 points in surges, a kill, and then I had a 6-point scoring hand with great gains in the mix.
Yeah, and so I'm at 12. I'm at 2 to 12. I'm like, man, there's probably impossible to get back. And then I'm thinking about it more like, well, no, like I can get. I've got enough people dead, and if he plays it wrong, then I do have I have those 7 glory end phases if everything aligns right. And unfortunately, the next round I drew into pure carnage, lives well spent, and then contest to equals. So all of a sudden I'm super jammed up with 2 end phases and 1 surge. But I'm like, this surge is maybe scoreable. But at that point, all of a sudden my dice go on fire at exactly the wrong time. Like if this kind of dice roll had been, if this kind of dice had been happening in our first game, then I take this 2-0. But this is when it showed up, and Hexbane just starts one shot, like bloom blows away Miari, boom blows away Bahanar, and I'm like, God, just like equal my dice. Like I need to score a contest to equal so that I can see another objective, because it's the only way I can get enough glory to catch up. And I get all the way. And I'm trying to engineer this plan where like I have to kill another hunter, because Skylar has correctly identified that if he doesn't kill 2 hunters, then I can't score lives well spent. And what I have in hand, I have lethal ward, and I'm like, if I can get somebody damaged and then onto an objective, I can lethal ward them to be able to score lives well spent. There's a little bit of trade off there, but it lets me see another objective, and it just doesn't. And I just kind of like, I'm too tired, I can't do it, I'm just going to lethal ward. So I wiped you out at the end of round 2, because
yes, you did.
Aelin ended up on an objective, and I was like, I can't. I know that I will lose if I lethal ward Aelin. Like there's not a way back, but I'm just too tired to like think about it. And that was like the subconscious, like the low functioning part of my brain was like, don't do this, it's a guaranteed loss. And I was like, I just can't think that hard. I'm just going to kill Aelin and hope that I'm wrong about some of my calculations. And I wasn't. So
the funny thing about that lethal ward was I had already been on that objective, and he had hit me off of it. So I was happy to jump back on it. I was like, oh, cool. So he must not have a lethal ward. Jump back on it. Was planning out like, okay, I've still got 1 fighter left. We're going to have a full round 3. I'm thinking about how I'm going to have to play to keep the denial game up. and all of a sudden Lethal War drops. I'm like, what? where was that a moment ago?
Yeah, and you were taking extra attacks, which was giving me the chance for a contest at equals, which was like my only way back into the game. I was like, everything's possible, and then like you got it through, and I took one more, and I was like, no. So the right play on my part was to try to bank one more attack and then finish you off in the next round. But
that makes sense, yeah.
I just couldn't quite pull it together, and kind of collapsed. And so even with the 7 Glory end phase, I think I caught up like 12, 15, something like that.
That is exactly how that one scored out. So our series ended up 48 Glory to 46, like 2 differential across the whole series is wild.
But what I wanted to lay into is this. So like I think you and I will both agree that like card order played a huge role in game 3, right? Like you had near perfect card order. I had card order that was, on the lower end of good.
So after that first round, we talked about it. We looked at the 12-2 gap and had a moment where we discussed like what would need to happen on your side for the catch up to work. And you needed to see lives well spent, proof of guilt, and pure carnage as the last 3 objectives that you were going to, pull into hand for the game. Yeah. And that was not what happened.
Not what happened. What ended up happening, and it turns out even if I had managed to score contest to equals, I would have been toast because I had my last 3 objectives were all my surges, and they were all like interactive surges. Like I needed to see eye for an eye earlier. I needed to see whatever. I had with the pistol, like I was very likely to make a lot of concealed pistol attacks without actually killing somebody, which would have been good if I had, what am I thinking of? Due process. But all 3 of those were just at the very bottom of the deck, and that just that stalled me out. But what I'm getting at here is, while it is true that you had a much better card order than me, if you play that wrong, if you don't identify that Bahanar is in danger of dying, if you don't identify that you need to use your Aether Quartz right now, even though I don't have lethal at this moment, like you correctly read the hand. So without good play on your part, even good card order doesn't save you. I think if you don't save Bahanar right at that moment, I think even with that card order being what it was, I think I maybe take that last round. I'd take that last game. And so all I'm saying there is that like the random factors are part of it, but they're not enough if you don't have good play.
So that is one of the joys of the game is when you sit down against somebody, the cards and the dice are going to help. But it's going to be all about that positional play, about reading your opponent and knowing what they're capable of. And sitting across from you, I know you are capable of just absolutely destroying me if I make the wrong play or give you an inch as a result of a mistake, that you will take every advantage against me. So I couldn't agree more, and I am really happy that I was able to perform on that level that day, if nothing else, because it made for such a great tournament and a great final series.
Yeah, I mean, for just 6 of us throwing in down, I really I was pretty wiped out at the end of the day. That was 8 games in one day, which is more than I've played since Adepticon. I think that it's got to be because we haven't done a best of 3 locally for a while, right? So. Yeah, it felt good. Felt fun. I'm jealous of you guys getting to play in the Grand Clash. I know it's going to be Nemesis, but I'd love to be in that mix.
Love to have you there. I'm going to miss you there for sure.
Yeah.
Got to plan ahead.
Yeah, it's making me pick between family and self, and that is a tough choice to have to do. But
I don't know if I've mentioned it on our podcast. I think I mentioned it over at Battle Mallet when we did our crossover. But I had a conversation with my wife, fiance at the time, about when to aim for having children so that their birthdays do not interfere with Adepticon.
Wow. Next level.
Really shooting that gap.
He's also going to make sure that the school district doesn't have a spring break that falls in line with that.
Oh man,
there's a bunch of different dates, but like it's about balance. So she had her date requests as well. So we're like, we know where our time windows are.
All right. best of luck to you.
Well, I have a friend who had his kids on. One was on like Thanksgiving, and the other one was on Adepticon. I was like, you didn't plan that?
Yeah. Do be better. Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up. Skylar and I got to wax a little extra poetical about our final match there. Kind of spent a fair amount of time. I'm going to pass it back around to the group at large. Any further thoughts about that event, or the game in general before we look to close it out?
Small note: when we arrived, we were actually offered sitting tables, our choice of, because we had scheduled this with Noble Knight Games, the venue, and they asked us, do you want the sitting tables or would you like the standing tables? And those are the wargaming tables. And we asked, well, are there any events that will be taking those tables today, like, or anybody coming in that you would be aware that would be missing them if we took them? They're like, no, like they're going to be the least popular tables of the day. So we're like, yeah, no, we'll take them. And man, those are fun tables to sprawl out on. The tables that are sized up for wargaming are fun to have a tournament at.
Yeah, it's weird, but I like it. I like standing during a game for some reason. Like I think it as I'm starting to fade mentally, I need that extra little boost. So I'm with you.
Agree. It keeps the mental juices flowing.
Those are my usual tables, so I was at home.
Well, I think now that we've talked tables, I think we've covered just about everything.
All right, we'll wrap it up.
But the stools!
Hey, look, we want you to get in touch with us. You can do it on Twitter at WTHcast or whatthehexcast@gmail.com. A way you're really going to get some interaction is on our Discord. We have none of that is really... I guess there's one section that is locked for patrons, and we do appreciate those patrons for making it possible. Right now, we are covering our hosting costs, which is something that most podcasts can't say, and I can't say enough. I really appreciate you guys doing that. But that Discord is where you can get in touch with us, and you should do so because you need to get on there and tell us what factions and decks we're going to play in the Trash Fire Tournament, Sleek's Bowl. Sleek's Bowl, suggested we call it Sleek's Bowl in the tradition of bowl games for football. I'm going to go one step forward. The Sleek's Bowl is because his name's. We have lots more content. If you're going to Adepticon and playing in any of those other systems, particularly Age of Sigmar, Warcry, or the sub of Age of Sigmar, Path to Glory, you can check those out at themortalrealms.com. Thanks to them for hosting this podcast and keeping us on there on that network. We appreciate that. Coming up, we are a short 3 episodes left before we hit our 100th. We do have that Sleek's Bowl Trash Fire Tournament coming up. We're going to talk about the history of the game through the lens of what the Hex has covered in that time. And there may or may not be a new release in that time to cover. Also, Acon's coming up. My dudes, Flavitex quiz time. Are you ready?
Hit me.
Always.
Okay.
Always.
All right. Buzz in with your answers. I think you... there were clues laid throughout this episode what it might be, but we'll see if you can pick up on those. So the quote here is unattributed, not anyone in particular. It was not a good death.
Unequal contest.
So we have Lethal Ward, we have unequal contest. Josh, do you want to weigh in?
Well, I mean, that narrows it down to literally any other card than a good death. So,
I'm going to give Josh the slower answer. One clue. I encountered this card frequently during the tournament.
It was not a good death.
Oh. I want to retract my answer.
All right, go for it.
It's a sudden demise, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. He's got it. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah. R.I.P. Drop Biter.
Get got.
Yeah. Let's see. So that is going to about wrap it up for us.
I guess a reminder to everybody for Adepticon, that is March 22nd through the 26th.
That is correct. And the 22nd is that Wednesday, and that's the currently closed tournament for the Dice Heroes. And by closed, I just mean tickets are all sold. We're going to
always get on the wait list. Those usually get moved up.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, so I'll be there Wednesday night, Thursday, and most of Friday. I will not be there for the Grand Clash, but I think I speak for all of us. If you are going to be there, drop us a line in advance. We'd love to meet up with you. If things line up and we're not in the same event, I'll play a pickup game with you. Like, let me know. I'd love to, if you're a listener, I'd love to shake your hand and get to throw some dice at you. So.
Absolutely. I have a little push cart that I have with a big flagpole on it. So you can find us. That's where the Underworlds event is. White flagpole with a red chaos flag.
Sweet.
And I'd like to send that same offer that Davey threw out. That's pretty awesome, actually. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for most of Thursday and Friday. And if there are people around that want to do pickup games, that would be fantastic.
Excellent. Your recommend listening for this episode is a tip of the hat to Skylar. This is one of my favorite artists, Ghostface Killah, is Purified Thoughts. And this is off his Apollo Kids album. It's a hot track. But for that, for What the Hex, I've been Davey.
And I've been Skylar.
I'm Brian.
I've been Josh.
One final note, thanks to the Dice Heroes and for our own Skylar for reaching out. It looks like that Wednesday night event at Adepticon is now a 40-person event. If you haven't noticed that, it is. So there, at the time of this recording, remains capacity. We'd love to see you there. Come join us if you can't make the Grand Clash on Saturday, Sunday. Join in on that Nemesis event on Wednesday night at Adepticon. I'll be there, and I hope to see you too. Thanks. Bye.
So wait, are we not doing name and tag? What are we doing?
We agreed on name and tag, but Brian...
Wait to edit more. Can't wait to edit more.
Didn't you say that you're excited to use this new tool?
Oh, yeah. This is not why I'm excited to use it. I'm excited for, the compression, which I am bad at.
I was about to say, Skylar, you are essentially equating it to him being excited to cut down a tree with a scalpel.
I'm playing around. Well, do we just want to...
You can't beat me in the finals and then grind me into the dirt with editing as well.
Watch him.
Oh, no, I can. All right, here we go.
I put a good long pause in there for you, Davey. just so it was easy to edit.
You didn't count it down, though, so...
3, 2, 1. Oh, there it is. Classic. Okay. Let me get a drink.
While we're in an editing blunder,
I am just drinking.
While we're in an editing bit, in case Davey wants to take this out, could you guys at the top table hear the Joker's wife playing Wingspan a couple tables away?
Yes.
That laugh was intense.
It was piercing. If you choose to keep this in, it was something that, don't want to begrudge somebody having a good time, but for the listeners, if they get to the privilege of hearing this, it was like Mark Hamill's Joker, just at a consistent level. Once it like revved up, it was just at a consistent chirping, piercing level, and it didn't wind down.
Let me tell you what just blew my mind though is like they were playing Wingspan.
Right.
Yeah.
What is so funny about Wing? I love that game. Don't get me wrong,
to that,
but like
that I am not aware of.
Oh my god! Like that's the chillest game in the world.
I know.
I got it on whatever. Like I got it on the computer on Steam or something, and it's like the chill out thing. Like it just plays this like peaceful music, and you hear bird songs. What is it about that game that could make you laugh at that level? I guess what I'm saying is I'm playing Wingspan wrong.
Birds, man.
I think we all are.